This week on Supercars Talk, I look at the good and the bad that came from the Gen 3 debut at Newcastle. The first thing I want to discuss this week that came out of Newcastle is, should the drivers be essentially muzzled with their opinions? It came to light over the weekend that Dave Reynolds and Shane Van Gisbergen had been spoken to about their thoughts on the Gen 3 platform and, you know, how happy they were with it and things like that, and maybe they should keep quiet, which culminated in that press conference on Sunday where they refused to do any answers. I did my talking on the track, I think was the quote, and that was it. No more questions, Your Honour. No, they shouldn't be muzzled. They should be given their thoughts, but the way I believe what should have happened is they should have got together with the drivers, you know, especially after the first testing of the Gen 3 kind of happened, when they had those first tests. How do you like the cars? How can we improve this? You've all had a day in the cars, or, you know, after get them all together in the evening of the Sydney Motorsport Park test, get them all together. Okay, you've been out there, you've spent a day with the cars now, all kind of together. How do you feel about them? What do you kind of, and then you might have got some of the guys going like, hey, these cars are pretty warm and things like that, and then, hey, yeah, I had a similar problem, or I'm the only one experiencing that problem. Maybe it's an issue with my car. Get them together and then actually have a bit of a conversation about why because especially we say with Dave Reynolds' comments about parity beforehand, he got pulled up saying that he was ill-informed, blah, blah, blah. If he's ill-informed, what hope have us fans got? Like, if the drivers don't know the full story, us mere fans, how are we supposed to, you know, get a grasp around what is kind of happening? So I think they should have got all the drivers together and then, you know, explained, you know, what, you know, try and alleviate their fears over the Gen 3 platform and whatever. Give them that knowledge so that they can go and make, you know, informed decisions about what they say to the media. I'm all for, if there is a genuine issue and, you know, they kind of bring it up with Supercars, you know, the cabins are too hot, they won't do anything about it, then start bringing it into the media. But yeah, some of it, and it just seems to be a big communication issue from both sides. Like, there should be a bit more to and fro from both sides. It's good that there seems to be a drivers commission thing starting up. There's Shane, Chaz, Cam Waters and Will Davison, I think, are the four kind of founding members of it, so that you know, all the other drivers can go to them. They can, you know, put on a united front and go to, you know, the hierarchy with their issues and things like that. Mainly, you know, safety and track things more than new commercial aspects within the sport, but at least it's steps towards the right direction, because we need the personalities in the sport. You know, for Shane to sit there and just go, you know, I did my talking on the track, I'm not going to answer any questions. It just wasn't a good look. And then I know I fielded a lot of questions from casual fans and that, what's this, the drivers aren't allowed to talk, and you're trying to explain, well, they are, but they've been told not to, you know, bag out the new cars, and some of them have kind of taken it to the extreme. Very hard to explain. So, but I just think that maybe they could have handled it a lot better before this all kind of blew up, rather than, you know, just head in the sand and let it all explode in the first round. Now, the 888 disqualification over the weekend. Very contentious subject, this one. There will be an appeal. They've put in for their appeal. It will be Wednesday, March 22nd. So tomorrow, after this video comes out, I do not think they are going to win. I think this is a bit of a, we have to do something for the sponsors, etc., to show that we weren't blatantly cheating. Now, were they blatantly cheating? That's the discussion there. Did they get permission off Burgess? Did Burgess giving them, you know, saying, yeah, that looks good, was that the right call? Because what probably I didn't get across properly in last week's video, And I apologise, I did record that very quickly, had other things going on during the weekend that, you know, it all culminated. I didn't get to see interviews and stuff after the races. It was very much, I watched the racing and yeah. But this was a safety aspect. So there's a gap down the side of the driver's seat that's an air gap essentially, so between the seat and the roll cage. So if something comes crashing through the side of the car, like a Prema coming through the side of a Courtney, there is a gap there. So if the cage gets compromised, you're not going straight into the side of the seat. So if you're jamming an ice box down the side of the seat, that takes away that safety net in there. So yeah, there was obviously a performance advantage because it means you can have a quicker pit stop, because it's easier for the guys to access the ice box there to add more ice during the pit stop and that. Is it a big performance advantage? No, it's not. But it then comes to safety, because you say, oh, well, you know, it didn't happen, it's all fine. But what if it did happen? What if something went wrong? What if this was allowed to slide and it's fine in Newcastle, but then there's a big high-speed accident at Albert Park, you know, or one of the other, you know, goes all the way to Bathurst and something high-speed happens there and then someone gets injured. This is, on something like this, you have to do it right. And my big issue with it was the mixed messaging that came out from Triple Eight. It was like, oh, but Adrian Burgess said it was fine. Everyone else is mounting them wrong, you know, so we should be allowed to mount them wherever we want. And the other one, oh, we didn't have time to mount it properly, but then we were able to mount it properly quickly on Sunday morning and get through that race fine. If Burgess did say it was fine to them, there probably should be a mechanism in there where maybe the rules get checked properly. What I have heard as well, because a lot of people brought up scrutineering and that, is that the cars went through scrutineering and then this was added afterwards, and Burgess kind of went, yep, that looks cool, off you go, without probably really, you know, thinking about it totally properly. Yeah, once again, probably need to take a step back and actually think about why you're doing stuff and go through the proper process on it, rather than doing something like that on the fly. It's a very tough decision, but I believe that on something like that, the penalty was correct. It is a very harsh penalty, but the problem with something like that is if you don't draw a line in the sea, if you kind of go, oh yeah, here's a little slap on the wrist for doing that, then other teams will start going, well, if it's just a slap in the wrist, we'll move something that will, you know, definitely give a performance advantage. And then it just, everyone just kind of, and it gets out of control. And that totally destroys the whole thing of why we're doing Gen 3. Now, on this, was Gen 3 a success in Newcastle? It's too early really to say, but we're going to try and do it anyway. So one of the big things, they were aiming for a cheaper car. That definitely didn't happen. It's yet to be seen. Over the long run, they will be cheaper to run. Yeah, but at the moment, definitely building the first ones, that's a big fail. Are the cars easier to repair? Well, going off what happened in Newcastle, no, but there's probably some mitigating factors on that, as in, you know, the spare parts weren't there until the last minute, so they hadn't fitted them up to see whether they're right. Big argument of mine on this one as well, those front clips and that, from what I understand, you're not allowed to have them pre-built. You have to have all the parts there and then build them up after you've had the accident. You should, I mean, you know, Tickford and Brad Jones Racing should, you know, basically have half a chassis kind of built up, ready to go, because they're going to, at some point during the year, well, Tickford did it, Brad Jones Racing, it's going to happen during the year where they are in this position as well. They should be able to, I think, have, say, like the front clip built up, ready to go, so you can just chop it out. Yeah, and get the car back out on track, because ultimately that's what, if there is an accident like that, we want to see all the cars on track. It's very disappointing when there's an accident and yeah, then we don't get to see a car out on track. Another aim for Gen 3 was improve the racing? It's hard to tell off Newcastle. Albert Park will be a much bigger test than that. But race 2 was a lot better. Race 1 was, but that was also first day back at school. Everyone, you know, kind of, we got a few weeks to repair these cars on the Sunday race. So they were a little bit freer with them. The racing was, I enjoyed, you know, Sunday's race. It was good. Saturdays, yeah, it was a bit of a, but over the course of the year, you're going to get those races anyway, and typically the first race in Adelaide was usually a little bit quieter, and then they were a bit unleashed on the Sunday. So this has been going on for years where people, and especially with Gen 3, it would have been, do not damage this car on the Saturday, we've got to get through this weekend. Sunday's a bit of a different matter. The big tick of approval on these cars, the looks. Yeah, just they look so much better out on track. We had to put up with that mutant Stang and the unloved ZB Commodore. That's, yeah, no one bought them. That shows how great they were. Yeah, the looks are just, they look so much better. And just on a side note, like, we just have to give it to the teams. I mean, one mechanical DNF over the 2 races over the weekend. That was Nick Percat's NTI Commodore. But yeah, other than that, they all got through mechanically. There were some niggling issues in that. But yeah, they got through the weekend. Yeah, a couple of weeks before, people were saying, oh, there's only going to be a half field there. We should delay Newcastle by 3 weeks, you know, to make sure, or you postpone it to the end of the year. The first round should be the Grand Prix. No one's going to be ready. Yeah, for everyone to get through that weekend, just, yeah, big tick on that one, Supercars. The last little thing I want to cover off this week is Supercars had a poll on their website. What you think is the best livery of the year. Some interesting results, I think. The hard thing is you get 1 vote, so you can tell that some fanboys obviously just picking their favourite team. Unless I'm, yeah, just wrong, but yeah, the one that came second, definitely not the second best looking car, I don't think, but this team does have, well, the top 2 have a lot of fans. Yeah, so the hard thing with polls like that though is you pick one car, you don't get a second shot. So well, like I kind of go through and you're like, well, you know, I kind of like a handful of cars. How it's very hard to pick just one. But the results, with 1% of the vote, the Tradie Mustang and the Pizza Hut Camaro. The Tradie one, as I've said, I dislike with the 2 different yellows. The Pizza Hut Camaro I quite like, but I can see why this did not get, you know, Macca's not a really popular driver or anything, and yeah, it's not an outstanding memorable livery. The 2%ers, the Hino Camaro, Snow River Mustang, R&J Batteries Camaro, and the Newlon Camaro. That all makes sense. Not super popular drivers, not outstanding liveries at all. I was surprised I suppose the Newlon Camaros, yeah, I suppose they didn't, that really translated well on track. The studio shots, I was a little bit iffy on that, but yeah, on track, those, you know, the Premier cars did look really good. 3% of the votes, Penrite Mustang, Castrol Mustang, Middies Camaro, and the SCT Camaro. Very surprised that the Middies Camaro got that many votes. I think that's probably my least liked livery of the whole field. Surprising that the Penrite Mustang probably wasn't a little bit higher up, but I do have issue, like there's too much white in that livery. 4%, we had the NTI Mustang, the Cool Drive Mustang, and the Truck Assist Camaro. I would have expected the Cool Drive car to be a lot higher. Yep, it is a carryover livery, etc., but it does look very smart. It is very nice shade of blue, etc., but once again, probably people, you know, I'll pick my favorite team and then, you know, oh, I really like the Cool Drive car, but I'm going to vote for my favorite. 6% of the vote, the Erebus Coca-Cola Camaro. I love that livery. If the Shaw and Partners wasn't such a hard font to read, that could probably be my favourite livery out there. I think it translates really well, like the cars look really good on track, but yeah, it's very, very hard to read the Shaw and Partners on there. Coca-Cola that stands out from a mile away. 7% of the vote, the Walkinshaw Andretti United Mobil 1 Optus Camaro. Let's see how we go all year. That one, I really liked that on track. I thought it stood out from the crowd. Yeah, even there's a lot of white cars out there with the teal on it. I thought that one stood out kind of the most. I really like the frontal of it with the Mobil and the one and all that kind of going on. If I had to pick one livery, that probably would be the one that I would pick. 8% of the vote, the Tickford Monster Mustang. Probably my second favourite one. Yeah, I've given a lot of thoughts on that. The black, probably not quite as good as the Optus livery out on the track. It does get a little bit lost just in single shots though. That one is the outstanding number one for me. 10% of the vote, very surprised on this one. The DeWalt Camaro. Does Frosty have a hell of a lot of fans out there, or is this a bit of a protest on some of the other liveries or something? I was very surprised that that was so high, considering the Hino livery was so far back. They are quite similar. The yellow and black does definitely look better. The DeWalt colours always do look really good out on track. But yeah, I was a little bit surprised that that one came in third. In second position with 15% of the vote, this can only be because they are the most popular team with the most fans, are the Red Bull Ampol Camaros. They did look a lot better on track than what they did in the studio shots, but it is still, it's a tough one on the eyes, you know, all that kind of competing sponsors and that, trying to get their minute in the sunshine. Yeah. 19% of the vote in number one position, the DJR Shell Mustangs. Now, this livery is a beautiful one on an FGX Falcon or a Mutant Stang. I don't think it translated that well onto the new cars. The back, the front looks really good. The shots from the rear of the car did not look good. Might have been worse as well, because those cars looked like they were really sitting low in the back. They just didn't seem to look like they were really working that well around Newcastle. And I don't think the livery, the kind of where you get that wave down the side of the car with the straight line, that kind of, I don't think it really, I think they should have updated the livery rather than just carrying it over. I don't think it translates as well onto the newer cars. Like, I think the Monster, you know, that translated well. The Cool Drive, that translated very well onto new cars. I don't think this one works as well on new cars. But once again, probably you've got a large amount of fans out there for this particular team. Yeah, and that's all I can put it down to. But yeah, down in the comments, do you totally disagree with me, or yeah, what do you think? What's your favourite one? And also, let me know what you think about the drivers being quietened. Should they be totally allowed to say what they feel, or should there be some kind of restraint and some consultation, say, with Supercars about, you know, what they can and can't say and what they should be saying, and a bit more, rather than getting to the point where the drivers feel they need to air these concerns to the media, rather than being able to talk about it internally and get, you know, some dialogue so they can fix these issues rather than letting it blow up. But that's it for this week. Don't forget to check out Backseat Drivers on the separate channel, Formula One, IndyCar, etc. live stream on Thursday nights. I'm still Dave, and I'll catch you later.